What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode. This is Deep Dish Conversations, a series in which I, Jerome Moore, sits down with prominent figures in Nashville, Tennessee to talk about social issues over amazing deep dish pizza. Deep Dish Conversations models how to have conversations about deep issues around racism, housing, policing, poverty, and more. Plus, you will get an idea for where to get your next slice of pizza from. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy Deep Dish Conversations. What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Jerome Moore of Deep Dish Conversations. We're here with another amazing episode because all of our episodes are amazing. But today is really special. We have Buddy Teaster, the CEO and president for Soles4Souls, based right here in Nashville, international organization. Yep. And I'm an international man myself, so I'm really looking forward to talking about this international space. Buddy, how's it going?
Good. Pleasure to be here. I know we had to move it a few times because of COVID, but I'm thrilled to be here.
We season two. Season two. You took your first bite. How's it taste?
It's going to be a contest between pay attention to you and pay attention to the pizza. I'm going to do my best to pay attention to you, but...
Well, we'll get straight into it. And so, as I mentioned, Buddy is the CEO and president of Soles4Souls. Can you tell us a little bit for people? I know a lot about Soles4Souls.
Yep.
Apparently, clearly. I have my
get your bracelet. I saw.
So quick story. I've had this same bracelet. I had two of them, and I kept a spare one and one on me. So I had this for like at least 7 years.
Wow.
At least. And I think I've given maybe one away. So maybe this might be about like out of the two that I have. Right. Because when you travel, people's like, oh, I like that.
Yep.
But like literally, so like get you a bracelet. Get you
Absolutely.
But can you tell us a little bit about Soles4Souls and the social enterprise model?
Sure. So we've been around since 2006.
Okay.
And the model has changed a lot. We started really, even before it was officially an organization, as a disaster response organization. The people who started it came from the footwear industry. Some of them did. And they collected shoes for the tsunami in Southeast Asia in 2004.
Okay.
Then when Hurricane Katrina hit, they came back and said, we should help again. And after that, they said, maybe we have an idea here. Let's do something more. Since that time, we've collected 55 million pairs of shoes.
Wow.
Probably we're getting close to 25 million pieces of apparel. That's become really important to us too. And the reason we do all that, we've gotten really clear, is we use shoes and clothes to create opportunity for people.
Right.
And there are lots of ways to think about opportunity. One of the most important ones for me was really what drew me to Soles4Souls is how do you use shoes and clothes as an opportunity, as a way for people to create opportunity for themselves by earning an income. So they might start a small business, they might create jobs for other people, but stuff that you and I, Jerome, don't use. It's in our closets. We don't.
Right. Doesn't
fit. It's too old. Whatever. If you get that in the right people's hands, they can turn that into food, education, housing for their families. It's a powerful model.
Yeah, I heard you mention that. I think you maybe were referring to Haiti specifically, but I heard you mention that there's not a lack of work ethic.
Oh my God!
In many of these countries, or as we see, developing countries, it's just like opportunity. It's like there's not maybe enough resources and things like that.
That was one of the first. I started at Soles4Souls in 2012, and I traveled to Haiti for the first time in January of 2013. And I was trying to understand what we were doing. I mean, this model wasn't working like it could,
right.
And so trying to figure it all out. And I went there with a lot of assumptions about they must be lazy,
right.
Kind of hold this list of negative things, right?
Right.
Because unemployment rate officially is 50 or 60%. So you look at all these numbers and say, well, that must be the problem. And it's not the problem. These people will work harder than anybody, but they just don't have much to work with, right? So if you're selling plantains,
right,
everybody else has the same product, right? So there's nothing unique about what you have,
right?
And you only have a little bit of it. And so what we saw with the shoe model is they're hard to come by, so they're automatically more valuable. And the way that we changed because buying and selling used shoes and clothes, like that's an old business, right? It's been a long time,
right?
But the people that we were working with, they didn't have very good access to the supply chain, right? They're small buyers, and by the time it got to them, all the good stuff had been taken out. And the price was through the roof. So they had lousy product at a high price.
Right.
That's a terrible business model.
Right. Hard to make money that way.
Hard to make money that way. And
Right.
they had the same thing that everybody else had, like them had.
Right.
So there was no reason to come and buy it from you or me.
Right.
So what we figured out is if we could cut out the middlemen of all that process, the guys who drove the price up and took out the good product,
Right.
and got it right to the entrepreneur, maybe that would change the dynamics.
Right.
And it turned out that was 100% right. So in some cases, we literally saw women triple their income
Right.
like that.
Right.
And so if your income tripled overnight, your life would be different, right?
Right, right.
And it's true for these, mostly women, especially in Haiti, it's mostly
Right.
women. And we didn't have to coach them or do anything other than just to give them that opportunity. And then
Right.
they bought a house, they fed their kids more, and they got
Right.
them into school. Like they did the stuff that parents everywhere want for their families.
Right.
And all we had to do was create that opportunity and get out of the way.
And I think that's what one of the, if not one of the most things I enjoy about the Soles4Souls model, because a lot of times, especially they've got documentaries on Haiti, right? Nobody wants to be a beggar for life, especially as a country, right? And what I like for Soles4Souls is like you all build power. You know, it's not like you all they gotta depend on you all
Right.
to survive and make it. It's like, no, we have a product, you buy the product from us, we train you, and you all do your thing, you make the
Yeah.
money, you keep the money, and just like any other business, you would need to re-up, need to resupply. We supply that for you, and like you said, you cut out the middleman. So I really appreciate that, and I just really wish more nonprofits or maybe NGOs specifically that are in countries like Haiti had more of that model instead of kind of, well, we have to hold your hand the whole way in order for you to benefit from our services.
One of the things, it's easier now than it used to be. When we first started, like even my family would be like, you sell shoes to poor people? You
Right.
work terrible. Right? I mean, it was
Right.
it was a little tense in some ways.
Right.
And so what it took me longer to realize, and now I know how key it is,
Right.
if you give somebody something, they have to take it.
Right.
It's this, there is this weird power dynamic.
Right.
And you have to be grateful for it, even if it's not what you need and it doesn't
Right.
serve any real purpose, you have to kind of take it.
Right.
And I get to feel great, like I gave you the thing.
Right.
and,
Right.
and sort of, but what we found out is that when a woman bought shoes, she was an equal. Right now, she's a customer, she's not a recipient. And that was a big deal. So she could come back and say, your price is too high, your product's crap, I need it, whatever it is. But she is at the table as an equal now, not as somebody who's just got to accept what you give. And that kind of power is transformational, right?
Right.
When these women are already going to the very edge to survive, and now you give them a seat at the table,
Right.
that's a big deal.
What other countries, I mean, I know we talked about Haiti, but I want people to get to like the broad aspect. What other countries are Soles4Souls like partnering with other?
Yeah. So we have a couple of countries where, so we sell or distribute shoes in a lot of countries, but
Right.
we're really deep in Haiti, Honduras. We're kicking off in Guatemala.
Okay.
In Eastern Europe, in Moldova, we have
Wow.
The model's different there. It's more of a retail.
And I know people in Moldova.
You're rare.
Yeah,
There aren't
right.
many.
I know people in Moldova. Wow.
But our partner there,
All
this
right.
guy is a terrific business person, and he employs 450 people.
Wow.
Right? He's created a big enterprise.
Wow.
And we're doing some in a couple countries in Africa,
Okay.
but we really haven't found the formula there yet. The
Okay.
logistics are really hard.
Right.
And because we run that part of Soles4Souls like a business, logistics cost make the model hard for our partners to work. And I think
Right.
that's another thing you touched on. It is in these countries, we're not doing this from Nashville. We find a local partner,
Right.
and that partner's already doing lots of stuff in the community, right? So they
Right.
know people because they're doing
Right.
food or education
Right.
or healthcare,
Right.
other things, and they want to help create
Right.
jobs or opportunity. So we partner with them, and they're the ones who
Right.
make sure that they're connected in the right way to the
Right.
community.
They're already
They're
in the
trusted.
community. They trust it.
Yeah.
They're from there, grew up
Exactly.
there. So yeah, and I think that's from my perspective, that's really appreciated because it could easily be you or somebody else to say, "Oh, okay, I'm just gonna move here and then I'm just gonna run everything." Which, I people do it, but it's how sustainable is that,
Yeah.
right? And I think what you all do is definitely sustainable, but it also I'm just really big about building community power, and I think that's what that does when you all to work directly with community members that are from there, live there, and empower them, and then go from there. Why did you get into this work of social enterprise, non-for-profit personally?
So when I first really learned about Soles4Souls was when they were doing the search for the CEO. The CEO and the founder was gone. It was very messy. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that much about the organization. And as I learned more, what made me want to come here was the model, was to say, we can use business as a way to help people get out of poverty for the long term. That is super appealing to me.
Right.
And the thing that actually it's taken me a long time to get my head around, because it's pretty easy, but why are we giving away stuff for free? That was the hard part, right? Because I get what can happen when you give people a chance to earn more money and take care of their families. Like, that's pretty clear and super energizing.
Right.
And I had a mix of for-profit and not-for-profit background, so that was the perfect melding of that. It's only been in the last year and a half or two, other than natural disasters, which it's clear why people need help right away. Right. That's not complicated.
Right.
What do we do when we give away a coat or a pair of shoes here in the U.S. or name a country?
Right.
And I maybe we can talk more about it, but I think we finally got a good program for how to do that and a reason. Mm-hmm. But for me, the appeal for Soles4Souls for many years was exactly this: teach a person to fish. I hate to use the cliche, but that's what it is, right? I mean, they need us because we're suppliers.
Right.
They don't need us to know how to run their business or to figure out what to do.
Right. And everybody has suppliers, some type of, like,
exactly.
Even somebody supplying the spinach,
that's right.
Somebody supplying something. So that definitely makes sense. How did your upbringing maybe influence getting into non-for-profit work instead of, I can just be a doctor, a lawyer, make a whole bunch of money, and hey, I'm a white man in America, like,
right. World's my oyster,
world's my oyster, right? Yeah.
So look, I would answer that question differently now than I would 2 years ago, right? There's a lot. That's why you're doing the work that you're doing.
Right.
That I was not super tuned into, because I was the first one in my family to go to college. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't finish high school. Mm. He was a coal miner when I was born. I mean, he changed jobs, but that's kind of where I came from.
Right.
So it never felt like the world was my oyster, right?
Right.
But looking back now, I realize, man, the amount of advantage I had was huge.
Right.
And so I think there's always been this part of me, Jerome, I get a little sense of it's in you too, is like, I want to do good, and I do not, and I want to be successful, right? I want both of those things.
Right.
And I think for a long time I thought they were sort of incompatible, and now Soles4Souls has shown me that it's not, right? Every day I get to work on things and work with people who are trying to create opportunity for others.
Right.
In a way that's genuine, and we all get paid and all that sort of stuff, but it's not about making the money, right? And so I feel really lucky to have found that. But when I look back at where my parents came from and the kind of work that they did and their parents did, it's light years away, right? I mean, I realize how far away one generation can be.
Right.
And I see that happen in Haiti and Honduras, where their kids are going to grow up differently.
Right.
And I want to be a part of that. And so, in a place like Haiti, that's less obviously racial, but it's much more about kind of what class you're in and where you geographically are.
Right.
And I saw what happened for me, and I want to be a part of that where and when I can.
Right. And this is what I'm excited to get into this.
Now I'm nervous.
I'm really excited to get into this, because being able to talk to someone I know that's been immersed and seen different cultures and communities outside the United States, and be able to reflect, and be able to see things, and you have to find out something about yourself, something new, something you didn't know, but just think about your own privilege, right? And I tell people like this: even though in the United States I might not have the same privilege that you have, just based on our skin color, but when I go beyond the United States, if I go to Haiti, if I go to Latin America in general, or South America, all these places that I've been to in a way and lived in, I have some type of privilege, just being American, right? Once they find out I'm American. And so I'm curious, and I'm pretty sure the listeners and watchers are curious too, how has your travel experience in this particular work gave you a a different lens maybe on your own privilege, your own white privilege. It made you reflect on that as you're doing this work because, and I just spoke about this with Will Acuff from Corner to Corner. It's like, hey, like Christian guy, white male, doing good work. In his case, like adopted 2 black kids, you know, white savior. Like that's like, and I know like we talked about this before. I know it's like a trigger. You do not want to be in that bubble at all. And so, how has that travel kind of helped you with that lens of like white privilege, white power, and just dealing with that and reflecting on yourself personally and making sure that you're not in that white savior? And some people might look at it anyway and say, hey, you know, he's doing this work, she's doing that way, they're white savior, whatever. You know, some people just like when you know slack. Right. But how do you you know, you recognize it, you know it's something real, but how do you deal with that internally to making sure that, you know, you're intentional about and genuine about the work that you're doing in the power that you're trying to build? And I try to prevent from using the word help, right? Because I don't think so in a way it's help, but I think it's more you're building power like for people. And so can you speak on that a little bit? And I know it's a loaded question, but this is the part I'm really excited about, y'all, because this is. So
I would go back for me way before Soles4Souls. So when I was in college, I did a 6-week course in India. Okay. And that was the first time where I'd only traveled a little bit before outside the U.S., but it was to Western Europe, right? So language-wise, I was out of my depth, but not really. I mean, I felt like I was a long way from home, but going to India totally flipped my world upside down, right? I mean, I didn't understand anything about what was going on. And I came back, again, it's sort of a cliche, but like I came back a different person. My family remarked on it at the time. And so that set me up to believe that travel in and of itself is a giant window, right? I mean, it's a real opportunity to see other people and yourself in a different way. Right. So that's one piece. The other work that I did, I worked for a long time at a membership organization called YPO, the Young Presidents Organization, which was global. I traveled a lot in the very top thin slice, right? It was a very different world, but exposure to lots of people. So all that came together for me at Soles4Souls to realize this is a way for people to connect with what we do. If you're one of the ones who put shoes in the box, to go see how it gets turned into something on the ground, you don't often get to see that full circle, right? So our travel program is really important. But it didn't take me long to realize that in how we were marketing and talking about it, we were doing more of the white savior thing, right? We were saying, let's go help these people. Right. And it was difficult because it was risky from a marketing and financial perspective, but to start to say to people, the one who's going to be changed is not where you're going. It's you when you come back. So I don't know if we hit it head on and say, don't be a white savior. I mean, we did those kinds of things to say, first of all, just like there's some basic respect that you owe people here. Right. But the real thing is you going there and giving them a pair of shoes or playing with the kids at the orphan, like what those things are. Right. They mean something. Right. But what's going to change more fundamentally is you. You're going to leave and your finger comes out of the pool and, you know. Right. There's maybe a little ripple, but it doesn't last long. Right. But you can come back and be a really different person. Right. So we really encouraged everyone to think about that inner journey, not kind of the Instagram picture of you holding a little black kid in Haiti. Right. Which, like, we almost stopped. Right. I'm not 100%, but a lot of that went away. Right. And I think that made our program stronger. So that's one piece, is to focus on where the change is really happening. But the second piece is to your point of, I'll just give you a recent example. So we have really strong partners in Haiti and Honduras. And for different reasons, COVID hit them really hard. Right. Haiti was already in lots of trouble, economically and politically. Right. But the business part of what we do is they owed us money. Right. Like we sent in the shoes, and we use that money to pay our people and do our work. Right. Pay me. Right. And so there was this moment where, like, damn it, you got to pay. Right. And then to step back and realize, like, especially the guy in Haiti, there was a time when he's like, I can't stay the same place every night. Like, people like me are getting kidnapped. He's a Haitian American guy. People like me are getting kidnapped. Like, wait a minute. I can't go to the bank. I can't get more than $100 out of the bank at a time. Wow. And so it was one of those kind of, I don't know if it was a white savior moment, but it was like those worlds are so different
Right.
that the stuff that I'm frustrated about is like not even the top 100 of what he's worried about.
Right.
And so I think the ability, sometimes, I wish it had happened sooner for me, but
Right.
is to realize that the situation on the ground drives a lot, right? We can talk about culture and race and class and all that sort of stuff, but
Right.
when people are getting kidnapped and the government's unstable and your currency's worth 50% of what it was a year ago,
Right.
that erases a lot of those kinds of things, right? Because you've got to
Right.
deal with the immediate. And same thing in Honduras. They had 2 back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes. The flooding was unbelievable. Like Raul, our partner there, sent me pictures of people, body parts hanging out of crocodile mouths. Like, it was unbelievable. Right? This isn't a big city.
Right.
And to say, wait, we're not going to ask questions about your plan. Like, just get you some money so you can start to help your people. Like,
Right.
we don't want receipts.
Right.
And ordinarily that would be kind of what we would do.
Right.
And so I just think trying to be more sensitive to the immediate context. You can't do that unless you've traveled and been there and spent time and
Right.
because intellectually you can't get all the way where you
Right.
need to get.
What's going on, everybody? This is your host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations, Jerome Moore, and I know you're enjoying this episode that you're watching currently. Make sure you hit that notification button and hit subscribe so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for all love and support, and continue watching the episode. I'll holler. So if I want to have this happen, have you had? Because I know you all work with some universities, like, and people can come and do the international
Yep.
shoe job experience. What do you do, or is there actions being taken if I'm a white kid, I'm a student, right? I'm
Yep.
young, maybe this is my first time abroad, and I want to be a do-gooder, right? I just want to, but hey, I'm in a generation of Instagram and Facebook, and I want to make myself feel good. I really don't understand the concept of like kind of what I'm actually doing, other than I'm taking a trip. It's gonna look good. I'm doing something that may look good on my resume and stuff,
Right.
like, as a student, right? And you see that, and you witness, like, they're not really. Is there a point where you try to have that conversation with that student, or maybe even an adult that doesn't get it? Have you had to have those conversations? Are they tensed, or?
So we try to have those conversations before we go, right?
Okay.
We have our travel leader, often they're working with a university, for example. They might be working for 6-12 months before the trip. So there's a lot of interaction before you go. The university trips, there's always a coach or a AD or somebody who is that kind of responsible person.
Right.
So that's another kind of safety valve. But I think the most important thing, and our travel team developed this on their own, is every night you have to sit down and reflect and talk about what you do, right? So you just don't like, hey, let's go paint houses, give away shoes, whatever, come back, go to some nice hotel bar and dinner, and then you're on your own. I mean, you hear people, not just university students, like, God, y'all, can you just let up on us? Like, we worked all day and now you made me work all night. Like, yeah, because this is when the work happens. This is when the work about you is going to happen. And so, like I said, it's not 100%.
Right.
There's no question about that.
Right.
But I think there aren't very many people who are unthinking when they do it.
Right.
Now. So
Right.
it's tricky. We've never had a blow up. We've never really get off the rails.
Right.
We've had probably a few conversations like, you need to kind of get back on the plan here.
Right.
But it hasn't been that hard because it's not a hard sell for the most part. And your point though about lots of first-time travelers, never been out of the country, that's also a really powerful thing, right? So we used to do a program here in Nashville with the capstone program, so high school seniors. They would go through it and then they would travel with us. And for so many kids, it was their first passport, some first time out of Tennessee. So that's a real, we took that responsibility really seriously.
Right.
And the impact, I mean, some of these kids, they come back and they're like, I'm going to do something different with my life than what I thought.
Right.
So that kind of thing doesn't happen all the time, but it's pretty cool when it does.
Yeah, and from my own like travel experiences, that's how I know to ask these type of questions, because I know what it did for me, and there's no way I would have had that lens, or I don't know if I would have developed it, or if it would have came, because you have to be there. Like some things you just can't get from reading or watch. Like you can empathize, maybe contextualize a little bit, but it's like it's different in it, and it makes you evaluate who you are and what you're doing and how you're doing it and what's really important. But also, it helps you get rid of like unintentional biases that you may have about a particular group, a particular country, because of the propaganda that we see here in the United States. Doesn't always show the best light of some of the countries.
And I'd be curious what your experience has been around this, Jerome, because it's something that kind of bugs me, and I don't know how to feel about it all the time. And I felt it, so I'm guilty of what I'm about to say, and that is, you go to some place in the developing world that's really rough, it's really poor, and one of the feelings is gratitude for what you have at home, and I think that's appropriate, but it also seems kind of cheap. Like if it were to stop there, about, man, compared to these folks, I've got it great, which is true.
Right.
But then what are you going to do about it? If we don't help people get to that step,
right,
by doing reflections and journaling or whatever on the trip, or as for me, just as like that's professionally what I need to do.
Right.
It's somewhere between the sort of white savior and really knowing that what moves the needle. Right. But I don't know, maybe because gratitude is something that's hard to avoid when you travel like that, right?
Yeah, like I definitely say like now for sure, like living in some of the conditions I've lived in other countries. I'm like, I don't think I want to, voluntarily.
I don't want this when I go back.
I don't want this when I go back, or I don't want to, like, this is not something I want, like, I aim to maintain that, like, to keep. So I think that, like, I don't think anything is wrong with, like, just recognizing that, like that's just, like, I don't, like, the people that are living in those circumstances don't want to live in those circumstances.
Exactly.
Right. So, like, I know I don't either. Now, now I think it's another part to it is like, well, like, I think it's a challenge for people as individuals, like, well, how can I stay in these conditions in order to use and leverage my skill sets that I've attained in a more developed world in order to kind of build power, community development, those things there. But then you get into that, like you kind of said, like just savior mentality, American savior mentality in general. Well, how can I do something that's going to be sustainable where I don't have to be here? Yeah. And that's the thing. And like I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and that's a conversation that's kind of fickle. Who's it benefiting more? Like, is it benefiting the volunteer? Is it benefiting the community? Yeah. And I think it's a little and both in a way. But hey, you getting a college student, fresh, for 2 years, 27 months going to Peace Corps, don't really know much about community development, so they're learning and trying to figure it out. And so they're definitely benefiting and hopefully reflecting, getting to know, and their community is getting an American, and that has resources to a governmental agency that they can pour in and do programs and things like that. But and it's hard for somebody that's 21, 22, 23 to understand of like just know how to create sustainability, and this is your first time in this setting. And so like it's something that I think you just try to be intentional and try to be intentional about, like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And this is what I don't want to happen. But I think like people like me and stuff that have seen these things and been in these, like, I tell people now, I don't want to. I don't. But
I think your point about and the people who live in them don't either.
No.
Like there's just this thing like, well, they all seem so happy. That's kind of bullshit.
Right.
They are not happy eating once a day.
Right. No.
Getting sick when they drink the wake, whatever those things are that they live with every day.
They're the most kindest.
They're kind.
They're kind.
They're not happy living in that.
Right. No. And if you stay there long enough, they express it to you, or they'll let you know, like, hey, I'm grateful for my 1 to 2 meals that I get because I know I could get 0. But it's like they would definitely, like better opportunities, or if they could, be in better situations, they definitely would. And so it's one of those things, like for myself personally, that's why I feel like having these conversations and be able to not just talk about the travel part of it, right? Because I think people, when you like travel, that's like, you can go on vacation, that's cool, but I think it's deeper,
we
more important
changed our
underlying work.
model on this travel thing, Jerome, because it used to be you could just write a check and travel with us.
Right.
Right? And I think we were starting to get off track. Like we were going to places because somebody wanted to go, not because
Right.
we had a reason to be there.
Right.
So COVID, we were already going down that track. COVID obviously stopped that in its path, and we're like,
Right.
okay, we should take advantage of this chance to reevaluate. And now
Right.
you have to earn your trip. You have to collect shoes or money to be able to go. You can't just write a check.
Wow.
And we've narrowed where we go. We're going to go to fewer places and go deeper, just so we can do so we can really understand and be a part. So when people see us, they're not like, oh, here come these guys. They're going to come through and paint and do a crappy
Right.
job of painting our houses. Like
Right.
these people are here because they are here for the long term,
Right.
and
I love that.
and we trust them.
Right. No, I love that. Because and it's so and this kind of like a pet peeve because I see it all the time via social media. It's so easy just to go travel, have fun. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I don't know, just based on my experience and the deeper meaning of what I want to get out of it, but just the self-reflection of just myself, but also of other community, other cultures, and then what does that mean to me coming back here to the United States, and how does that impact what I do next? Kind of like you mentioned, and I think those are the type of conversations just around just traveling abroad and stuff that I want to have more. That I think is just deeper and more important than just the overall like just leaving the United States in general. Like it's so much more impactful. But I'm glad to hear that like that Soles4Souls is being intentional about that. In this model and just not saying, hey, yeah, I want to go here and then like go here.
We did a trip to Morocco, and there's a lot of poverty in Morocco. There's a real entrepreneurial opportunity there for some of these women that have already done amazing things. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's no strategy here. Somebody just said, let's go to Morocco, and suddenly we're
in Morocco.
We're in Morocco. People had a great experience, so it wasn't like, so we delivered what we said we would do, but the why part, man, like we lost that. And so it was kind of and it was hard on our team. Like they have to learn everything all over again. So it wasn't good for our team. It wasn't clear with our purpose, but we were meeting a market need. That's not why we're in business. Like that's not the job. We're not a travel company.
Right.
We're here about creating opportunity. So once we had that conversation, like, that's the thing to get anchored on again.
And so I've always said this. I feel like Soles4Souls should have a bigger name here in Nashville. One of the reasons why I wanted to get, Buddy on D Bitch, because people really need to understand like how crucial and amazing, Soles4Souls is. It's not an international model, but what y'all do here domestically as well. And so one of my like meaningful experiences with Soles4Souls is we was at, I think, Martha O'Brien. And we was like literally putting shoes on kids' feet, right? Yeah. Like literally taking off like shoes that just wasn't like functional anymore and putting on new shoes. And it's like, man, like the small things like that just makes people's and it did a lot for me. But it's like I seen the joy.
Saw the kid.
Yeah, I seen the kid. It's like, wow, and it just makes you reflect on your childhood and the shoes that it's just like, and it's like, man, like, they probably as kids you can jump faster, jump higher, jump
for sure you're faster.
And so it's like it did a lot for me. But I know I seen what it did for the kids and just the experience to just do that, like take shoes off and put shoes on that are functional, new, right? What are some things that you all have got currently happening here in Nashville? And definitely want to speak about like the homelessness as far as with the MNPS, Metro Nashville Public Schools.
When we started talking, Jerome, I said it took me a long time to figure out the sort of why are we giving away free stuff outside of the natural disasters. And it's almost 2 years ago now, Janie Day, who used to run Second Harvest here, she's an amazing woman. She just retired, and we're like, hey, why don't you come and talk to us about what we don't know, which is a lot. And so she said, I think I know something you should focus on. So there's a lot of focus in public schools around kids who experience homelessness, and so the first two priorities have to be housing and food, right? So that was Janie's lens. She said, but there's a much bigger need here that nobody's thinking about, and shoes are a part of that. So we'd worked some with Metro Nashville schools before, but it had been kind of like, oh, this is what we have, can you use it? So it was very reactive.
Right.
So once Janie said, look, there's a bigger sort of a program here, we started talking to Catherine Knowles, who's the head of, I think it's called the HERO program here, but it's the programmatic piece of the schools that works with kids who are experiencing homelessness. And she said, shoes are a giant need. You know, people don't think about it.
Right.
We buy them when we need to from Amazon. We just go on Amazon and buy the cheapest shoes that we can find.
Right.
Which is not great for the kid.
Right.
And the other piece, once we started talking to other schools, teachers, administrators, as uniforms become more important, like the place where you can differentiate yourself is your shoes.
Shoes, right.
So if your shoes are falling apart, don't fit, aren't cool, you're more of a target.
Right.
You can't participate fully in PE and those other kinds of things. And so
Right.
the teacher said, this is a pretty big problem. So once we started to unpeel that a little bit, there are 1.5 million kids in the U.S. who experience homelessness in any given school year. Like, it's
Wow.
a staggering number. And
Wow.
then we're like, okay, well, bring that down. It's 4,000 kids in Metro Nashville schools. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
How can we do that?
Right. Right.
So we're like, well, if they need shoes, and this is Soles4Souls, we should be involved in trying to figure this out.
Right.
So we're about to launch, Jerome, a big initiative to get to that 1.5 million. But this year, we distributed about 35,000 pairs in Edmond, Metro Nashville, and maybe 20 other districts around the country.
Right.
And our goal is to give every kid in that category a new pair of branded athletic shoes once a year.
Right.
And so we started that.
Right.
And we've been, I think, trying to be much more diligent of like, what's the impact? Measure.
Right.
Tell us what's happening.
Right.
And I have to say, I mean, I knew it would be good, like you just said.
Right.
You get that, you know what it feels like.
Right.
But so kids show up to school more because they have shoes.
Right.
They participate more.
Wow.
The teachers say, I see a difference. But the other thing that I was not expecting, and it was a big number, 70% of these kids, older kids, use these shoes so they could go to work.
Wow.
They had crappy shoes for work.
Right. Wow.
And so maybe they have to walk to work or they have the wrong kind when they get there. That's a double win, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because they're able now to help their family economically, whatever that means.
Right.
And they have shoes that they feel good about.
Right.
So it sounds kind of squishy to talk about how it makes you feel.
Right.
But when you feel like I belong here and I go back to school,
Right.
that is not a squishy thing. Right?
Right.
If you show up more and you get a high school education instead of dropping out,
Right.
that's a big damn deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a long way to go, right? I mean, it's going to change so much for us.
Right.
But now, at least for me personally, there is a super clear reason why we're giving shoes to people, right?
Right.
It's a group of kids that we know how to identify. We know how to get the shoes to them through the schools.
Right.
The schools have all these other services that they're providing, right? This isn't like they didn't create some vanity program to give
Right.
away shoes.
Right.
And the results so far are super positive. So we're going to really put the pedal down on that.
Buddy, just to close us out, and I really don't want to close, y'all, to be honest. I really don't want to close. But just to close us out, how can people, one, you have a book.
Yep.
And I meant to tell you to bring because I wanted this, but I can't remember.
Shoestrings.
Shoestrings. Shoestrings is the name of the book. How can people tap in and get the book?
So Shoestrings is on Amazon.
Okay.
That's the easiest way probably.
Okay. Get the book, Shoestrings. How can people get involved with Soles4Souls, whether that's, volunteering, donating,
Yeah.
or just contacting you to learn more about the programs and initiatives that you all
Sure.
have?
So I'll start with donating your used shoes and clothes. We all have that.
Right.
So if you go to our website and put in your zip code, it'll tell you the closest place to drop something off.
Okay.
We have partnerships with DSW, so you can go to any DSW. There are always places that are changing, and there's some that are static. If there's nothing close, we have an incredible partnership with Zappos, where they will pay for the shipping, so you can put up to 50 pounds in a box, print on a label, UPS will take it, and Zappos pays for the shipping. So there's always that option.
Okay.
And if you're here in Middle Tennessee, we have bins around as well. So there's lots of ways to do that. And that's something that almost everybody can do. We earn about 75% of our revenue from our micro program. So we have to fundraise some, and that's for our free distribution. That's going to change for every kid. We're going to have to have to buy shoes probably to make that work. So if you want to contribute to Soles for Souls or specifically for Every Kid, go to our website, make a donation. It's super easy.
Okay.
That's easy. If you just want to know what we're doing, sign up for our newsletter, right? We try to be, we don't ask all the time, but we try to share, really what we try to do is share stories of the impact, right? So that if you are donating shoes or money or clothes, you understand how that translates into something.
Right.
And I'm always happy to talk. So you can reach me through our website, and I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter.
And as you all know, Buddy is an amazing storyteller. So like, he can tell a story for sure. But take my shoes, clothes, whatever. Take whatever. Take my time. But no, I really wanted people to really know more about Soles4Souls, but also you, and the reason why you're in this work and the experiences through Soles4Souls and how it changed you as a person, especially just traveling and seeing the impact that like putting shoes and clothes on people can have, but also building power by creating entrepreneurs, right? And so and I want people to get there, like it's sustainable. It's sustainable development that like empowers everybody, but empowers mostly the person that needs it most. Buddy, I appreciate your time. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned, Buddy's an ultra runner. Did I mention that? I can't remember. But he runs like 100 Ks, 50 Ks, all this stuff. It's amazing. Y'all just have to talk to Buddy. And Buddy, I'm gonna ask you another question off the camera because I'm just curious. But it's gonna be about the spaceships and just curious on where you know how.
Oh man, I didn't see that coming.
These billionaires are putting their money in spaceships and like,
don't get me started.
I'm gonna get you started.
Don't get me started.
Part 2 coming soon. But no, Buddy, I appreciate it. You all listeners, watchers, I appreciate you all tapping into another episode of Deep Dish Conversation with Buddy Teaster, CEO and President of Soles4Souls. Thank you, Buddy.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
He's taking the pizza home with him. Yeah, nobody ever finishes a pizza. That's a good thing. Y'all have a good one. We out. That's it. Thanks, Buddy.
All right, that was great.
Yeah.